Hello, I'm Sam Castor. I'm the founder of Manna Tech and Manna Relief. And today what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes and share with you who our organization is, what we do, and why we do it, and how it will play an important role in your efforts to change the lives of children. First of all, let me just tell you that our for-profit entity, Manna Tech, is a social entrepreneur organization. Now, sometimes people say, what is social entrepreneurship? So let me just tell you really quick. Social entrepreneurship is a new for-profit way of doing business. It sort of combines the cash flow and technology base of a for-profit entity and combines it with the heart, the passion, and the mission of a not-for-profit organization so that we can better bring sustainable change to the world's biggest problems. You know, this is a recent article, September 2010, from the Harvard Business Review. It was entitled, "Can Entrepreneurs Save the World?" And essentially it was all about this new model of social entrepreneurship and its relevance in the 21st century. In fact, their message to big business around the world through this article is, listen, if you're not thinking about social entrepreneurial collaboration, you'll soon be guilty of strategy malpractice. Because in the 21st century, the most compelling businesses will be about bringing value into the lives of others. So let me tell you three keys to successful social entrepreneurship. Number one, you have to identify a major problem in the world. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity to make a difference, the bigger the opportunity to profit, the more people you'll impact. So identify a global problem. Number two, you have to create an innovative new solution to that problem, because obviously what we're doing today is not working. And then finally, you use your business model to create the cash flow that is required to achieve sustainable change in the world. This sort of is a departure from the typical charity model, where the only way you could bring change is to raise enough money on a monthly basis. What social entrepreneurship does is it provides the profit center to donate into the needs and the change that is required. Let me give you an example of a couple social entrepreneur organizations. You know, if you live in the United States, you might be familiar with Tom's Shoes. Kind of a recent phenomenon. But this is a young man that went to South America and saw that kids all over South America were being denied education for the simple reason that they didn't have shoes. And the rule was that you had to wear your shoes to school. So he said, well, I think I'd like to solve that problem. He came back to the United States and started a shoe company. And he makes a relatively inexpensive, trendy-looking canvas shoe. And his strategy is every time I sell a pair, I'll donate a pair to a child in need. Well, I got to tell you, it has captured the imagination of an entire generation of young people who want to be a part of world-changing ideas. A very successful shoe company now with a core strategy of solving a global problem. Maybe more familiar with people is the Grameen Bank on an international basis. This was founded by a man named Muhammad Yunus, who actually won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for his invention of a new banking instrument. Now, Muhammad Yunus lived in Bangladesh and he realized the number one problem facing that part of the world was poverty. And here was his belief system. If you can invest in people, they would probably choose to work themselves out of their hopeless situations. So he went to the banking industry, which he was a part of, and he said, we need to create a new banking loan instrument to help put people into business. But the banking industry said, well, that's not how we do business. I mean, these people have no credit history, and worse, no job. You can't loan people like that money. Well, this is social entrepreneurship. He started the Grameen Bank and he went out and raised money from investors to do exactly what he had decided he wanted to do to solve poverty. And he created an instrument called the microloan. And he started putting independent, small people into business for themselves. Sometimes it was as little as a $25 loan would help them start their own business. Well, let me tell you what's happened. This has become a phenomena in the world today. It's the number one strategy for fighting global poverty. And microloans have expanded into not-for-profit organizations and other for-profit banks all over the world. At Manatech, our purpose is to develop and deliver the most advanced strategy for solving the global epidemic of malnutrition. See, we believe that malnutrition has become the biggest problem in the world today because it impacts so many people. In the world, 3 billion people today are considered malnourished, and almost 1 billion of those are acutely malnourished, which means they live daily with the threat of death. In fact, half of all childhood deaths in the world every year are linked to malnutrition. 5 million children a year under the age of 5 die of malnutrition. That's one child every 6 seconds. So there is no other problem in the world that brings the level of devastation into people's lives like malnutrition. But let me tell you about malnutrition. It is now expanded globally. It's called the new hidden hunger. The classic face of malnutrition in the past has been a starved child someplace in the world. They're obviously underfed and undernourished. But here's the new face of malnutrition. It's young people in the world that are overfed and undernourished. And you say, well, how can you be overfed and undernourished? Well, it's because our food no longer contains the nutritional quality that is necessary to keep us healthy. Here's some U.S. statistics that are linked to unhealthy eating and physical inactivity. It's become the #1 leading cause of death in the United States. Listen, up to 580,000 people a year die of unhealthy eating and inactivity. It's become the major cause of disability in seniors, and it's linked to about 75% of our total health care cost. Listen, we spend $2.4 trillion a year in the United States on health care. 75% of it could be eliminated through better nutrition. People say, well, what's gone wrong? Well, what's gone wrong is over the last 50 years, our foods have radically changed. First of all, it's the invention of commercial farming. And commercial farming, while it might have a good intent of increasing the yield to meet the needs of a growing global population, its strategies for increasing yields come at a cost. And that cost is the depletion of essential nutrients in our food supply. So fruits, vegetables, dairy, and meats have all declined substantially over the last 50 years as a result of commercial farming. The second problem is the new industry of processed foods that now dominate our diets. Did you know that approximately 90% of all the money that Americans spend on food is now used to buy processed food? Well, processing food takes its nutrients or declines them substantially to create better shelf life. And then we use artificial flavors and sweeteners and colors, and we enrich the food with synthetically made nutrients to give it some nutritional value. But folks, 90% of all the food that we eat is nutritionally depleted. It led one leading nutritionist by the name of Dr. Buford Mason, who was quoted in an article in Canada's Globe and Mail in 2002 to make this quote: "No matter how well we eat, it's not possible to get adequate nutrition through diet alone." Folks, that is a sobering thought and something that we should all pay attention to. So what is the industry solution to the lack of proper nutrition in our modern diet? Well, it was the development of synthetically made and inorganically sourced vitamins and minerals. Well, why did that come about? Well, because it was very inexpensive to do, and you could easily standardize these types of chemically made vitamins and minerals to meet RDIs, recommended daily intakes. And primarily synthetic nutrients are used in the enrichment of processed food. So anytime you go into the grocery store and you see a box of cereal or a carton of milk and it says fortified with vitamin C or calcium or whatever, that's the enrichment of a processed food product using a synthetic vitamin or mineral. The other use that is predominant in society is the actual vitamin mineral supplementation. In other words, 95% of all the supplements that we take are synthetically made. So how has that proliferated the world? In 2006, Charity supplied over 450,000 tons of this enriched grain-based cereal to feed starving children around the world. Hey, that's $2 to $3 billion a year worth of enriched processed food products. What about in our own country? The proliferation has been incredible. Over 40% of our population now takes a synthetically made vitamin supplement every day. And almost everyone consumes a synthetically enriched processed food product sometime during the day. And that was designed to fill the gap of deficient nutrients. So you'd say problem solved. If 50% of the people are taking, a vitamin mineral and all the rest of us are getting synthetically enriched foods, we've probably filled that gap. And that's really what the feeling was, for several decades. Well, then something interesting started happening. We started seeing research headlines surface around the world on large population studies looking at the issue of could synthetically made nutrient supplementation actually decrease the risk of disease and death in large population studies. And something very radical happened. We started seeing headlines identifying that research with titles like "Vitamins Warning for Older Women," "Vitamin Pills Can Increase the Risk of Early Death," "Can Vitamins Do You Harm?" And it was all based off the fact that these large population studies were showing that the daily intake of synthetically made nutrients actually increased your risk of disease and death, didn't decrease it. Well, you can imagine the shock waves that sent through the processed food industry, through, the vitamin supplement industry. And at first it was discounted as that's just one study. That really maybe was taken out of context, and you really can't rely on that. We've been supplying these nutrients for several decades. We believe that they're still healthy. Well, this publication absolutely rocked the foundation of the nutrition industry. It was published in 2007 by the Journal of the American Medical Association. And it was a meta-analysis done on 47 independent clinical trials that found that the supplementation of synthetic forms of vitamin A, beta-carotene, and vitamin E at doses just larger than would commonly be found in a balanced diet actually increased the risk of disease and death. Of course, researchers went ahead and pointed out that their observations do not apply to the same natural antioxidant vitamins such as those found in fruits and vegetables. So there's something completely different about what is supplemented in a synthetic form and what we find in food. What about minerals? Because vitamins and minerals are essential to life processes. Here's what we found out about minerals. Minerals are generally recovered by mining ores or from byproducts of chemical processes. These are called mineral salts. And tests have shown that the minerals contained in our most popular brands of multivitamin supplements do not dissolve in either the stomach or the small intestine. In other words, they are not soluble. So what's the impact of that? Well, they probably pass right through the body without being absorbed. Well, how's that different than getting minerals from a plant or a food? Here's what foods do. Plants uptake minerals through their root systems, pre-digest them, bound them into a food matrix, which provides increased solubility. As an example, a molecule of magnesium is 23 times more soluble or bioavailable to a human being when it's in a plant than when it's in its mineral salt form. So listen, folks, this is called the design of life. We were meant as humans to get our nutrients from food. It's as old as time. So what's the impact of synthetically enriched processed foods? Well, let me start with the relief industry. Again, we send $2 to $3 billion worth of enriched grain-based cereals to feed starving children. What we've learned is there's a difference between feeding and nourishing. And actually, this organization called Doctors Without Borders was the first to really campaign internationally and try to bring an awareness to that issue. They started a campaign called Food is Not Enough. And within their campaign, they said fortified blended cereals do not meet the minimal nutritional needs of the world's most vulnerable children, and called on industry to bring more nutritionally dense solutions to that problem. What about right here in our own country? Well, listen, the impact of processed foods and synthetically made nutrients on our health has been devastating. Here's the most recent statistics. Over 215 million people in the United States are now living with a diet and inactivity related poor health condition. Hey folks, that's 2/3 of our population. And at the very top of that list is over 113 million people that are seriously overweight. Now people say, well, how could overweight be a deficiency of nutrients? Don't you eat too much? And again, it's the problem is the quality of food that we're eating. Here's the newest scientific data, and it points to the fact that micronutrient deficiency is the missing link in fat accumulation. And here's the problem. When we sit down to a plate of food, our body is looking for nourishment, not calories. So here's a recent research finding done on students 14 to 19 years old. Those that had the lowest vitamin D intake had the highest percent of both body fat and abdominal fat, regardless of how many calories they ate, which directly correlates the loss of vitamins in our food to increased body fat. So let's talk about Mannatech and our innovative new solution to the global epidemic of poor nutrition. We call it Real Food Technology Solutions. And it's based off the science that basically establishes that food, not nutrients, is the fundamental unit in nutrition. This is a study that basically reported on that exact issue. It says foods are comprised of synergistic blends of various nutrients bound together in what's called the food matrix. And it is the food matrix, not its individual nutritional constituents, that best support human biological processes. In other words, in food, there are literally over 100 metabolic cofactors and phytochemicals and trace nutrients and elements that all work together synergistically to allow our bodies to properly utilize macronutrients like vitamins and minerals and amino acids and essential fatty acids. And it's that food matrix that best nourishes our body. So at Mannatech, we help create and develop real food technology solutions for better nutrition. First of all, we leveraged off the patented new technique for hydroponically growing cruciferous vegetables in solutions that are high density in minerals. And what that allows us to do is in these organic greenhouses, harvest these cruciferous vegetables, freeze dry them, grind them up, and for the first time, deliver nutritionally effective standardized levels of food-sourced nutrients. There's also new techniques that help us extract, naturally occurring vitamins from our best foods. And we put those together into product that we sell into the marketplace around the world called Phytomatrix. It is the first naturally sourced vitamin mineral product that existed anywhere in the world, where we delivered food-sourced nutrients at standardized, nutritionally effective levels. For children to meet their needs, we put that same technology into a fun, easy-to-eat chewable. So it's kind of like eating candy, only you get your nutritional value from a real food source. Now, we patented that technology in 2007 and have actually received our first patents. And kind of like the Tom Shoe model, our social entrepreneur strategy is that we link our consumer base worldwide to the needs of the world's most vulnerable children. We call that program Gift for Real. It's Mannatech's donation through consumption program. And what it means is that every time we have a consumer purchase one of our products, we make a donation to a child in need. Now, we deliver that technology through a product called PhytoBlend. And PhytoBlend is just a powdered concentration of those real food-sourced vitamins and minerals. And we send PhytoBlend to feeding programs all over the world. And let me tell you what happens. It helps us turn whatever these children eat into the most nourishing thing that they will ever eat. Now, we're delivering product over 80 countries around the world today. And we're linking up with relief organizations who are trying to address the issue of poor health in children all over the world. And someone has introduced you to this program, and we just want to let you know that we can team up with you and help make a difference in the lives of the children that you're dealing with. So join us today in this incredible program, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain who we are and how we can help you change the lives of children all over the world.